Good morning everyone, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I want to continue adding some additional layers of decoration to my third panel. These are my previous two, so just glancing at those you can sort of see where I'm heading with the decoration. There'll be lots of stitches just laying down over the top of the previous fabric layers, some fly stitch, some beads, and then I've got my gold thread that I've been sort of just sparingly, got to squirrel these things a little bit, just sparingly putting through the fabric as well. So there's two different beads. There's a little pink one and a little white one. So I've got the pink ones here at least. I think the white ones aren't far. If this is them, did I use those? No, they're a different one again. They won't be far. They're one of my favorites. So what I thought I'd do is come back and have a little stitch. So let's get some of this pretty thread. I think I want to put down some fly stitch next, and I'll use this decorative piece. There's just so many things you can do with these little squares, and I think the secret to it is the more you do, the more dense it looks, the better it looks. So where will we put? Might do something there. That looks like a little spot. So how have you all been? Nothing exciting to report here. All is well. There's no catastrophes, no major issues, no. Oh gosh, don't you feel like sometimes it's like, what is going on? So all is good to report. Nothing exciting. I do feel like I've got quite a few projects that are coming to the end, so that's exciting. I'm trying very hard not to start anything new. If you've been watching my channel for a little while, you'll know that I tend to have quite a few things on the go. That's so that I've got lots of things to not only keep me busy, I've always been a bit that way. I've got plenty to do to keep you guys entertained. So it seems to be working quite well. I've only been on YouTube 18 months or so. So it's it's working that I can pick up a project box, open it up, and right, where am I? Spend a day or so working on it. That might be one video, 2 videos, 3 videos, who knows, depends on the project. And then move on to the next project box. So I'm sort of keeping myself moving forward on multiple fronts. And then the Roxy Creations project, the treasure hunt, because that's a prompt every fortnight. That one sort of just rolls in probably closer to actual time, but I'm only usually about a week out anyway, so it's not like I'm months ahead at all. I'm not that organised. But it's really handy because for those of you who've been around a little while with me, you'd know that I also have a business, and it's starting to get a little busy because it's a couple Christmas stores. So I do need to do a little bit of forward videoing just to give me a bit of breathing space. Usually everything just trundles along and it's not an issue, but you only need something to pop up that you need to attend to, and that could quickly throw me behind, and I would be scrambling to get videos up to you guys. So I really do need to just keep pushing forward with pre-recorded little series. That way you guys can keep moving with me, and I've got, a week of free time if I need it. Otherwise I just keep trundling along. So far so good. I think that's how I'm going to go. So if you do get a video and it doesn't quite make sense to something I said the day before, it may be because I've pre-recorded and it's a bit of out of whack. we go. So there's some simple fly stitch. I still have a little bit of this left. I was a bit generous when I cut it off. These are Stef Francis threads. I bought them some time ago. I believe she's in the UK. She was on Instagram, I think, or someone must have showed their threads from her, another YouTuber. So that sort of inspired me to go and have a little look. And I bought a couple packs that she had, and one of them, like all of these, were twisted together, and I've had them tucked away and I haven't used them, and I was like, right, get them out and use them. And they matched this little pack of fabric really well. So they're great for not only stitching with, but also couching down. Like this one here, I tend to couch it down with stitches to hold it into position. I might do that next. But they're nice and chunky, so they sort of quickly create interest on a piece. I think I've got another 2 colour combinations still squirreled away for a rainy day. Isn't it funny how we do that? I've got some packs of fabric in the cupboard that I love looking at them, and I haven't found the perfect project, so back they go in the cupboard. You watch, I'll pull them out in 10 years' time and I'll be like, oh, sorry guys, this isn't available anymore. This is a colour changing thread, but it's very slow to change, so I'm still in the blue. I might get to the pink by the time I get to the bottom of this little panel. So I was thinking about the last, oh, not the last panel, I still can't decide. The bottom panel. The previous 2 project bags that I've made, I've just picked a piece of fabric that suits the colours of the sides and then just running stitch over it. I'm still going to do that running stitch, but I just haven't spotted in my stash a colour that just blends beautifully. So I was thinking, why chop into a perfectly good piece of fabric when I have this huge jelly roll still sitting here with heaps of fabric? So what I'm going to do, and I'll do it at this video, is I'm just going to lay down on the final piece. Oh, it's not the final piece. Sorry, I keep saying that. It's the base to the little project bag, storage Japanese rice bag. Where's my lining? I've got to keep remembering there's new people joining the world of slow stitch. It's the piece that sits on the bottom. In the past, I've just picked one piece of fabric and stitched backwards and forwards over it. So because I can't find anything suitable, I'm going to just lay down the jelly roll pieces, and that will be my base. Thought, why go rummaging for a piece of fabric to try and match it when I've got plenty? This looks really pretty lying next to those roses. So we need to come up with one more panel. I've got one option is to embroider a garden scene onto a pre-decorated panel, which I did some time ago and is sitting here. The only downfall is it has to be cut to size, which is not a big thing, but it must be the reason why I'm stopping from doing it. So it's coming to the pointy end of deciding. Let me just zoom up a little bit so you can see. Move everything over a little. This panel here. So one thought is to, using the Stef Francis threads, I think I'm going to do it. Just saying that sentence has just made me realise I have these beautiful threads that could really be played with. Yeah, we're doing it. Okay, decision made. So I will need to cut that to size for the final panel, which will give me a little morsel that could go potentially somewhere else for another project. I might bring that down as if it's a plant because I'm going to run out of thread. So I'm just going to do one long stitch down to the bottom. So that's that little guy in. We might couch some threads of Stef Francis's range. I might jump up and grab another example of her products so you can have a little look. Okay. This is what I got from Stef. Just pulling out a couple things that have got mixed up in there. So on her website, look, now I'm sidetracked. I haven't had a play with any of these things yet. This is like a fibrous product. Isn't that interesting? Maybe we should stitch, oh my goodness, here we go. Sidetracked. Maybe we should have a play with stitching some of these fibres down on this. If we're, not the purple, but the white would work. Even a little bit of that brown. And then this is what I got from her. And I've popped it into this box and I just haven't gone in there. Isn't that terrible? But look at them. Now there is an Etsy share when I purchase these on my channel. So if you wanted to see more details where I go through colour numbers and things. She's got watercolour, crown, so there's a little bit of everything here. It's a bit tricky when you're ordering online because sometimes, I don't think they're part of her. I think they've got mixed up in there. Look at these. Stef Francis, cotton, thick cotton. Oh gosh, if you were going away on a holiday, you could just grab a bundle like this and just focus just on exploring. Oh my goodness. This is the one. See, I said I had two. I don't. I have 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, naughty girl. That is this. So a bit of everything there. I shouldn't be looking through this because this is making me think of other projects. And that's what we don't want. The girl needs to stay focused. And then these were interesting. Look at those. Couching those down. How fun would that be? Viscose sparkle, she calls those. Silvero, black, gold. What's this one? Just some numbers. She's got silver there as well. Oh, silver might be. Oh, I know what it is. Okay, there's a sparkly thread through the cord, ribbon, whatever that type of thing is called. It seems to be this. And it's a silver, it's a black, it's a silver, and then it's a gold. So that's what it is. She has had this braid and then mixed through it a metallic thread. How clever. Gosh, clever girl. This here feels like a rayon. Yeah, really soft and pretty. Some cordage. I've never really played with this. When I was at the forage retreat, part of our little pack of goodies was some of this in a greeny blue. And that little guy there, that sort of reminds me of things I would have crocheted with in the past. There's another one of those, and it's got the black metallic thread. I can sort of feel that metallic feel. So there you go. That's my Stef Francis haul. Probably nearly a year ago now. I might pop the video from that in in the description below so you can have a little look. And for some reason I've got some wools in there. I may have picked them up from Stef's website, but I have a feeling I've just mixed them up because that's sort of part of that Appleton wool, Cascade wool. They need to come out of there so that I can use them because I use a lot of wool. This is a product. I think this was gifted to me. Oh, I forget. I just can't remember. I do apologise if you're watching and going, Corrine, I sent you that. Attention span of a gnat. So that's my Stef Francis little collection of goodies. Isn't it just yummy? Does anyone really want to go in there and break all that up? No. I just want to look at it. So, all right. Squirrel is back. Where were we? Where's needle, thread, attention span of a gnat? What was I going to do? I was going to couch down some of this. Where will we put it? I do it through there. So all I do with something that's thick, that you could drag that through a needle and through your fabric, but it's probably more for couching, I believe. This is just some crochet cotton I picked up in a op shop. Just using the last little bits of it. Such a pretty colour. And I'm going to use this, and it's old, so it tends to muck around a little bit on this due to its fragility of elderliness. So what I might do is we'll just lay this down and couch it down. So just dropping a stitch over this pretty fabric thread. It's nearly like a ribbon. I'm sure there's a name. If anyone knows the name of this type of product, pop it in the comments, because if then someone's searching for it, you'll know what to type in. It's nearly a braid, a cord. It's a woven product. So I'm just doing a little stitch over just to hold it. At the very beginning I did catch the actual braid, so there it sort of has just snuck through the edge of it. So these types of pieces are really quick and simple. And if you've got a heap of scraps starting to build up on your desk, this is a good project just to get rid of them. They're obviously something you've enjoyed using because you've created a project with them. And when I pick my other two bags up, I straight away get memories from either a project or where I've been. The Paris bag, the moment I pick that thing up, I start looking at it and I'm like, oh yes, I remember when we walked down that alleyway to that museum, you know. That's what I'm loving about this particular project. And I can see more scrappy Japanese rice bags in my future. It's just nice to have it sitting there as a pre-prepared, you know, all the bases. I will definitely be cutting out some more on the sewing machine, stitch them up, pop them into a container, and then as we move through bigger projects, I'll probably say, hey, here comes another one, because they're around my room with fabric in them and lace, and they're really handy and fun to look at. Memories. Should have called them memory bags. Loosely based on a Japanese rice bag. Storage totes. I wasn't sure really what to call them when I first started the series. Okay, just scooting down this side. So I need to keep an eye on the time because I do want to lay out the bottom panel. And that way this evening I can finish doing all the running stitch on this one. beading and things like that. With the beads, I tend to just pick a line somewhere and just put a little line of the beads. I wonder if I do a line of beads around the internal of the flower panel. In here. No, it might look too boxy. No, we're not going to do that. Okay, so now I can trim that little guy off. So we've got a little detail coming through here. It really is about just layering interesting bits and pieces. So in amongst this is this, it's sort of like a chenille. Maybe I get a bit of that down. Maybe down through the center of the lace, that would work. And then maybe we use pink to stitch it down again. Layers and layers. Okay. Let's get that started. Once again, just couching. Just couching that down. Don't slide out thread. I think I could comfortably trim that off. I'll give a little extra just in case. I think this thread too here might have been part of the Stef Francis. I'm just can't recall. There we go. So I'm not sure what day you're watching this, but for me, it's Saturday. I should have had a little look at my calendar where I've got like a little diary that I schedule in these videos ahead of time. But then again, sometimes I change them. Like depending, there might be a project pop into my mind and I'm like, oh, I've just got to do that. And I'll move something out to slide in something, or the Roxy Creations project might be needing a little bit more time. So I might push something like this out. That's why these particular projects are probably a little bit more random, but I guess you never know what you're going to get with me. In the morning, you'll turn on your phone or your iPad and be like, what is she up to today? So it can be a bit random. Okay. I was actually doing projects consecutively, and I found that you seem to prefer, and this is me looking at the back end of the analyticals, you seem to prefer when it's a little bit more random. And that sort of makes sense too, because if I hit you with 5-part series all in a row, there's no way you're going to keep up. Because for me, there's probably 5 weeks of work in there, and you're seeing a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So I noticed that when I do that, the viewership on those types of projects sort of drops away. But when I scatter the project over 5 consecutive weeks or even 5 months, the viewership is really good. So I'm thinking that I need to keep it like a mixed bag of lollies. You never know what you're going to get. Who said that? Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. Mr. Tom Hanks. So I think going forward I will do that. I won't hit you with such a big chunk of information. I guess too, it's then can be tricky to find the episodes to carry on with when a month or so has passed. A lot of that's to do with if you're not subscribed to a particular channel that you're watching regularly, YouTube makes it really hard to find their videos. So I noticed, I don't know who I was watching, I was like, why can't I find this video again? Part 2 or part 3 of something. And then I just happened to glance at the subscribe button, realised that I hadn't clicked it at some point, and I've been watching them for years. And as soon as I did that, it was like I could click on playlists and videos and it just all opened up for me really easily to navigate. So I was like, oh, there you go. Because for the life of me, I could not find this video in their range. I was starting to think they'd removed it, but they hadn't. It was just that, I nearly said Facebook. It was YouTube was making it. What am I doing before I just chop that down? I don't think YouTube was making it difficult for me to navigate this creator's site. So I thought that was interesting. So, yeah, if you are doing a project and you keep going back to that creator to see what the next step is or something, and you're struggling to find the video, just have a look to see if you've actually subscribed, because I think the channels are a little bit locked down when you're just a casual viewer, but by subscribing you get access easily to things. So I think that's sort of the incentive that YouTube puts in place, I guess their algorithms, for us to, at least let YouTube know that we are enjoying this creator. So they use, I guess, the number of subscribers that click and the notification bell. That tells them that, gee, they seem to be enjoying this person. It'll tell them too that, oh, they're going back to watch previous videos because they must be making something. YouTube can sort of see our behaviour, so to speak. So it's quite interesting. I'm trying not to do, go into the whole analyticals of YouTube too much, because I don't need it in my brain. Seriously. I just keep doing what I'm doing. I don't really care, actually. I'm just stitching, and I've got it turned on, the camera and YouTube, whatever. It's quite complicated. And it's 20 minutes of my time that I do not need to do. So I'd rather be stitching than worrying about it. So that's my theory on all of that. I'm not a techie person anyway. My husband would be, but he's not too interested in checking it out. And for me, I've got a pretty basic understanding of a lot of tech. I must admit, if you're stuck on doing something like programming a remote control or getting your TV hooked up, installing a piece of downpipe on your house, you just type into Google, how do I replace a downpipe on my house? And there'll be a video of someone doing it. It's just incredible. I remember, here we go, we're going back in time now. I remember when, if I wanted to explore something, let's say you're sitting at home on the couch and you want to go to another place, I would walk over to the encyclopedias in a little bookcase that was sitting beside the TV, because I couldn't control the TV. Dad had the remote. So there was no flipping it through the channels to look for something new. There was only 2 channels, to be honest. Let's be honest. The ABC, or I think it was channel 9, because it came out of Toowoomba to our regional area. But channel 10, wow, that was posh. We never got that. And channel 7 was really fuzzy. We needed a huge aerial to get that. So for me to get additional stimuli into my head, I looked at the encyclopedias a lot. Probably every second day I would have a book open, just not necessarily reading. I might have learnt more if I had read the encyclopedia. But just looking at the pictures, I'm very visual. So I'd be just flipping through the encyclopedia and I'd see just worlds that was just so different to mine. And it was just, in one page you could go from a tribe in Africa to the 1950s, reading and looking at pictures from the Great Depression, you know, just if I've got the right year. See, maybe if I had read it, I might have got my dates right there. But you know what I mean. And now I do the same thing. I will Google it and then head down a rabbit hole of vehicles from the 1950s or sewing techniques from the 1940s, or it's just incredible. I would have had to rely on that set of encyclopedias that would have been purchased probably through a payment scheme, you know, when they were door knocking and selling encyclopedias. And we didn't have one of the big fancy ones because I know at school we had quite a range, and there were, I think, the Britannica range. They seemed to have a lot more interesting things in it to the little set we had at home. So, now that's disappointing. Look at that. See, I was yibber-yabbering and I've missed that thread. So we will need to dodge up there and just investigate that further. So, yeah, the encyclopedias that the school had seem to have a little twist. So what I'm going to do is just get it a little tighter. So I could snip that, knot it and tie it down, but what I might do is I'm going to leave it. It's not going to get caught. It's not like a piece of clothing and something would get caught on that. So what I'm going to do is just stitch through it and stitch it down just to hold it, and that will be nice and secure because you don't want it pulling to the front of your work. So let's just get it as taut as we can. Check the front, yep, and then just put some little stitches in. So that's how you can repair a little. Look at that. That thread just split. Never seen that happen before on a Gutermann good quality thread. That's a bit bodgy, isn't it? Have I got to a weak part in the thread? I must admit, the last roll or two of this I've bought. Now this is expensive cotton. Let's be honest. It's really quite, I don't know, it's got a rough feel about it. I need to go hunting in my sewing machine because in there on a bobbin could be an older thread and compare them, because this just feels, maybe I'm imagining things. Yeah, maybe they've changed something. I don't know. We got our car in for a service the other day. See, that just broke. Gutermann thread does not snap easily in your hand. I have a feeling I've hit a section of thread that's a bit on the dodgy side. I will go to my little sewing machine and see if I can find. It feels like it's half the width of what it should be. Yeah, what was I saying? Oh, we put our car in for a service and they took longer than normal because they had to program the second key. You know, when COVID hit, a lot of technology was not produced that would be pretty standard. For example, I heard examples out there where you may have ordered a car from a dealership with electric windows, but when it arrived, they didn't have electric windows because the chip was a problem. Whoever was making the chips for computers to, and this is my understanding of a chip. A chip allows a computer to take information and spread information. I don't know if that's right, but that's my limited understanding of computers. So what was happening was these chips were very rare. I don't know, manufacturing was stifled. So a lot of technology was dumbed down to the 70s, 80s and 90s. And cars and products were either reduced in the way they performed or just not made until these chips were available. See, I'm picturing potato chips or deep fried chips, but they're not. They're tiny little things. So anyway, my car goes, I don't even know what my story was, for goodness sakes. Car goes in for a service. It took forever, like 8 days, because everything they went to do went wrong. So because the manufacturer is in Europe and we're on a different time zone, the men had to literally wait until the Europeans got out of bed to give them some instructions of what to do next, because they couldn't work out why something wasn't working. And one of the struggles was the second key, which was missing when we got the car due to COVID and the chip issue. We only had the one key for the car. And they said when the second key comes, we point them at each other and somehow they communicate and it all becomes one. So the technicians couldn't get these keys to communicate. It's such a first world issue, isn't it? So meanwhile, after countless days of trying to tag team with head office and getting a new program written and a patch written, and it just went on and on and on, we finally got the car back. So we were driving around in our work van all week. Luckily we had the work van, and it's a bit of a slow commuter type drive. So it's just different to a normal vehicle. Anyway, so we're down at the dealership picking up the car, and the guy handed the key to me and he said, look, we still haven't been able to work out how to get this second key program. So here's your car back, but you'll need to come back. So not happy. And I took the car, hopped in, and I proceeded to drive home with my husband following in the van. And it was exhilarating. I don't know if it's because I was sitting in a slow moving van all for 8 days or 5 days, whatever it was, which is a bit of a slug. So I've hopped back in my car and it's, I don't know, it felt racy and the traffic was pretty light, so I was able to drive at a normal speed instead of just chugging along and peak hour traffic. So I sort of felt like I was enjoying the drive because I was able to take off from lights and roundabouts, and there was just not that Congo line of traffic. So by the time I got home, I said to my husband, I said, the car drives differently. Have they, in the computer side of things, have they adjusted the way it performs? And he's like, I don't think so. I don't think they can do that. And I said, no, it's faster. It's more zippy. It's and he said, I did notice that you were a little bit heavy on the accelerator. He said, you were doing a bit of weaving and you were driving hard into the roundabouts and driving hard out of the roundabouts and then pulling up hard. And I said, no, it was the car. It was the car. It was so much faster. And he's like, I don't think so. I think it was your lead foot. So I said, no, it's different. So anyway, about an hour or two later, we had to go out for dinner. So I said, well, you drive it. You tell me it's better. They've done something. The computers are upgraded or something. Because I don't think so. So he hops in and he drives it. And he goes, there's nothing different about this vehicle. He said, you were just driving like a lunatic, which I wasn't. Well, maybe. Goodness me. Now you'll be thinking I'm a speed demon. I'm not a speed demon at all. But I just felt like it was different, but it wasn't. I honestly think it's because we'd been trundling around in the commercial van, you know, it just puddles along. When you get back into just a normal car and you go from that commercial vehicle back to a car, I think that's all it was. But my husband was like, I was behind you and I could see what you were doing. But yeah, so I was a bit of, obviously a naughty girl, but it was the car, all right. The car had been improved somewhat. And he's like, no, it hasn't. No, it hasn't. So yeah, I wasn't speeding if you're thinking. I was just going out of intersections and roundabouts slightly quicker than a van would, it felt. But he declared it wasn't a computer thing. So who knows? I'll have to ask the man when I see him next. That service was really good. The perception of value, right? I was convinced I got really good value for money, but I didn't. Nothing's changed. It's just the way I was using it, I'd say. So no doubt my husband will take the keys off of me until I calm down a little. Too funny. Now I'm a good girl on the road. You just can't speed anyway. This city, Brisbane, is just getting so busy. It's like, I don't know, you can go out at 10 in the morning and you're in a Congo line on a freeway. And the freeway speed limit, most of them in Australia, is 100 kilometres an hour. Very rarely do you see anything more. There are areas where it gets to 110, but not many. It's not like some of the roads in Europe. They're amazing. And you will sit on 70 the whole way. It's, yeah, I'm sure it's the same for all of you. It's just slow to go anywhere in our city, and I can't see it getting better. I guess that's half the reason too. We decided a few years ago that we would work towards moving away from Brisbane and get back out into more of a regional area, and we end up choosing a coastal regional town. I grew up in the country too, so I think I've done my time in the city. So I've always, I've been here 30 years. I've always wanted to go back out of the main city, and we've been slowly modifying our business so that it becomes more self-sustainable, so that we can potentially move out of town. So I'm really, really looking forward to that. But to speed in the city just doesn't happen. It is shocking. They keep adding lanes, so we're forever in a perpetual roadworks environment, which is painful to drive through at the best of times. And then when they do finally open it up and you're like, wow, we've got 4 lanes or 3 lanes, it's full. It's the same cars just squished up in a smaller area because they all bottleneck into the same old lanes. So, yeah, traffic congestion, I think, is the scourge of the planet, personally. It's just not an easy fix. So I'm just using some of this DMC Lamex thread just to put some interesting little running stitch lines around the place. It just slowly, when I've got just a little bit left, I'll then just look for a smaller little area and just, I've got a lot of layers of fabric here too, so I am just sneaking it through the first layer of pretty fabric and not trying to push it through all of this because it's just wearing my fingers. There's no need for it. this other side. I think it'd be pretty over here. So what I'll do, how are we going for time? Oh, look at the time. The girl's been chatting and has lost track of time. I don't even know if I finished half of the stories I started there. I do apologise if I didn't get to the point I was probably trying to make. So what we might do is, I think you get the general gist of what I will do here. I'll just keep layering in lots and lots of different threads, stitches, some beads, and that will finish this piece, and I'll show you that in the next video. But what I want to do to give myself some homework to stitch, we'll leave that for a rainy day. This is the base, which is just another piece. Just ignore the lines on there. That's probably the first one I cut out when I was considering sewing them all together, and then decided that I would do the overcast stitching. So actually, before I get into a hang of a mess, let's just put all those elements in my little tray ready for the couch. And this piece, they can go back away. All right, because I know once I open this thing, it's just going to explode. So what I thought I would do, I didn't really use these fabrics. I'm not a lover of them. And what will end up happening is they'll be in there looking at me and probably never get used. So I thought the bottom could be them. So all I'm going to do is lay them down just in a row. There's a couple different colours. Oh, that would have to be a fold, wouldn't it? Gosh, that means I've got to dig it in there. Oh, it's not too bad. Like, I like jelly rolls because you get, you know, a lot for your money. But boy, when they unravel, is there another one in the range? Did they do a cream version? I haven't used the stripe either. Can't see a cream one. I don't think I'll do the stripe because it's such a big print. This here caught my eye. So maybe, will that fit? There we go. That's what we'll do. Keep it simple. I can see the brightest blossoms that breathe of June. What else does it say? That floats on high over vales and hills. Thousands saw I at a glance. It must be a poem, a song, I don't know. Excuse my ignorance. So I'm thinking I'm just going to patch that together as my base, and then with running stitch over it like I did on all the others, I'll create my panel that way. It is sitting on the bottom of the basket, so it's not like, not like I'm looking at it all the time. So I've never really put a lot of energy into the bottom of my piece. It's just a basic running stitch. So being that that won't take long to finish, I thought, well, let's get the bottom done. Okay. And the other thing I might work on is getting, I'll stitch this all down, then I will trim it, because naturally fabric will pinch in a bit if it's stitched so heavily. So let's give myself a little bit of wriggle room. There's no use, you know, making it a bit short. The other thing I might start doing too is stitching on my side panels. Being it's a Saturday, I've got time to play. So I'm thinking I'll put the first panel on, and it's just a overcast stitch or a running stitch, an invisible stitch, whatever takes your fancy. And I usually start in the bottom corner from memory. I get this corner positioned. Okay. Then come to this corner. Oh, my tummy's rumbling. Must be breakfast time. Oops. Back it up. My pin is pushing some of that tatting. Oh, I did use a little bit of that fabric. Tiny bit. There's a little bit there. I didn't think I'd used any. Wouldn't say I'm a lover of it, but obviously I must have. It's been so long since, you know, between pieces that you forget what you do. So now I'm coming up the side with some pins. The only side I will not stitch at this stage is the top edge, because I need to create the loops that tuck in there first, and then the thread or the cordage that's used to draw it closed if so needed, or, you know, decoratively displayed, is has got that tunnel to go through. So those of you who've been with me a while, you'll know what I'm talking about. So I will only stitch that. It's such an effort because it's so thick. Like, it's great for making the bag stand, which is what I want to achieve. It's a storage thing, but boy, tough on the old fingers. So that's that one. I will then put on the other three as well. I might pin it because then I'm on the couch ready to go. I'll go to the opposite side and just get some pins into it. Just to hold it. Doesn't matter that I'm pinning through all these layers because I'm only really stitching on that edge, so it's not going to cause trouble for me. Okay, and up to that edge, pop a pin in there. Plenty of work to do now, haven't I? Created some work. Got the base to stitch, got the third panel to finish, and now I'm moving on to attaching them. See what I mean by a lot of projects are getting close to being finished, and it's quite exciting because I do have a little pile of, gee, if I got time, I'd love to play with that projects. And I have a feeling there'll be a few more things started, which is great. Trimming off some scrappy bits, but I'm not too concerned because it's a scrappy bag at the end of the day. So those two sides I will stitch on, then I can release those pins. That'll open up that side for my third panel. There we go. And I can even be cheeky and put on the final panel on the bottom when I'm ready. So then we just will have one side left, this guy, and we need to finally make a decision. So it's going to need trimming. I'm not going to do that now. I'm still thinking. I'm thinking if I cut it there, that is, look, there's pins in it still. I haven't even finished it. I'm sure I did this on the cruise months and months and months ago, because I had all these bits floating around in the project box when I was doing down the garden path, because I took the champagne garden with me and the wave of colour, the 2 snippet rolls, and all these little elements were sort of in amongst that. So they got stitched down. That is definitely a cut, but I do like this here. So I could cut it there, and then we add on here a bit extra, because that would be an interesting little, let me zoom in so you can see what I'm looking at. See that piece of lace there? There's 2, that one there and this one here. I think that's like curtaining. So I could do some stitching to, you know, build up, or I go this way, cut it there, and I've got a blank slate just to go for it. So that's the decisions. And if you're following along and you want to do something like this, I've just layered down lots of fabric, but I haven't overcut up. So what am I trying to say? I haven't running stitched over it like I would normally do, because I always felt like I wanted to do some embroidery on this, and I didn't want to add extra bulk to be dragging through those threads. So I've just invisible stitched everything down, and there's some tulle and there's some rayon-y type fabrics, silky things. This is all cheesecloth along the bottom. I sort of felt like it was a bit of a ground, and then I've tucked a little bit of lace. I didn't want too much bulk because that's just hard to drag through. So I'm going to use this, and I'll get a little morsel from it, I'd say, that can be used on another project. So it'll be just a decision, do I do this or do I do that? Who knows? All right, guys, I will leave it at that. I've got plenty to do in the meantime. That's great. Saturday night stitching. If it's Saturday night for you guys, it could be Tuesday, but for me, it's Saturday, and I've got plenty I can do. Let me just zoom back up. So I've got plenty I can do. Now, when I turn the camera off, I've got to wrangle this, maybe for the last time, quite possibly. Okay, guys, look after yourselves and enjoy your day, whatever it may be, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.